In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Kembra Howell, and she's hailing over from the folks over at SitePro. And essentially, they're all about remotely monitor controlling critical infrastructure in real time, right? This is what it's all about, like having all those types of places in secure oversight. And today we want to really deep dive into what SitePro is all about in depth, but also in an industry like this how Kembra is thinking about growth from a digital angle. So, Kembra, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me, Lucas.
Of course. So, maybe give us a quick overview. What is SitePro all about in your own words?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, SitePro is all about remote fluid management and control for critical operations. So whether that is an oil and gas pipeline, a municipal water system, irrigation for large industrial ag operations, we provide basically cutting edge technology and custom software solutions to help those operators more efficiently manage their resources, in the long run, saving water, which we know is our most precious resource, and cutting their bottom line. It's helping them financially as well.
Mm-hmm. Makes it very clear, very easy to understand. Now, what types of organizations would you say, like, maybe characterize a little bit an organization that would benefit the most from SitePro?
Yeah, so for example, some of our biggest customers are in the oil and gas industry, saltwater disposals. They're helping producers get rid of excess salt water from oil production. So they're one of our biggest ones. They have tons of barrels of oil and water coming in and out every day. So they're able to track very accurately exactly how much fluid is coming in and out. They're also using our camera integrations to make sure that everything looks good on site when they're not there, because most of them are very spread out, right, across very rural areas. So they can be at one location, get an alarm on their phone, hop on and see what's going on at another location without having to drive. And that's very important in a lot of industries, especially oil and gas. Keeping people off the road leads to better safety metrics. And then in the other industries that we're in, for example, we just launched a pretty big pilot project with Hopsteiner up in Washington State here in the US. So they grow hops for beer, and we're helping them manage their irrigation more efficiently so that they're using less water and making sure that all of that is automated and optimized for their growing conditions. So when the weather changes, when the soil changes, they're able to intelligently change the amounts of irrigation that they're using.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then in the municipal industry, most of our customers there are smaller cities. Here in Texas, we have one in Kansas, and then we're getting into New Mexico as well. And they're, smaller populations between 500 to 5,000. They didn't have any automation on their water systems before. And some of them didn't even have baseline visibility. They didn't know exactly how much water they had for their city to use. And so we're able to give them that data, help them forecast their usage into the future, because we know that that's a big issue for cities here in America. How are we going to provide clean drinking water for our communities? So we want to make sure that they have in the palm of their hands all the information they need to accurately forecast that and plan for the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is some very profound challenges that the tool is tackling. Now, who would you say within those organizations is typically sort of the champion or the lead who brings in SitePro? Is that does it come from an operational angle? Does it come from maybe sort of upper management level? Who brings in sort of the need and the request for SitePro in those organizations?
Yeah, so since our industries are pretty they're very different, right? And so we have a lot of personas that we target for the decision makers and the champions of SitePro, but typically they're civil engineers, or they are water operations managers, directors of chemical, and all the way up to CEOs and CTOs, who are managing all of their automation decisions and the technology that they're bringing in to help with that.
Hmm. Now, how do these folks learn about SitePro? Like, what would you say is sort of the journey that they're going through? In other words, what are the client acquisition channels that you guys leverage?
Yeah, so we've been in the oil and gas industry the longest, so we have a pretty good brand awareness there. A lot of our customers are, you know, kind of started as word of mouth, and then eventually we brought them into, an email nurturing campaign for current customers, just to help them understand the different products and services that we can provide in addition to what they originally came. Yeah, as a B2B SaaS company, we're constantly developing, new software, new features, and so we want to make sure that they stay aware of those. For our municipal customers, we do a lot of email, but we've been working recently on focusing on our SEO and our inbound strategy.
Mhm.
So we know that they're searching for content related to how they can better serve their community, right? They want to make sure that they're accurately and efficiently using their resources. So we've been working on developing content around that and creating more demand for those customers.
And what do you think the website then plays in their role? You're speaking about inbound. How do you think about the website? What role does it take in the journey of the buyers?
Yeah, I think it's so important. Your website is the only salesperson you have that works 24/7, right? So it's got to be optimized. It's got to be a priority for your marketing and content teams. And luckily, we have a lot of really smart people here at SitePro who, we've built our own software. So we've got a lot of insight into what works and what doesn't, on the UX side. And then content wise, we're constantly evolving and listening to what our prospects and customers are talking about so that we can create really niche content, that we're not fighting against these huge companies with large SEM and SEO spends. We're a small team, so we know that we've got to get it right, and we've got to do it really well, in even the small things.
Mhm. And what have you learned over, as a marketer, you mentioned, the UX is important. As a marketer over the years, what have you learned is important when it comes to actually, generating the traffic that is coming in into, I don't know, demo requests or quote requests or whatever? Is there any sort of like tools, approaches, methods that have been helpful for you over the years?
Yeah, so I am a big believer in organic traffic, in working your content as hard as possible. So I actually come from a media background. I was at a broadcast television station before I came to SitePro, and I think that one of the great things I learned there was that, as a media company, you're constantly developing content, right? And so when I came, I treat our marketing department as a media department. We're constantly developing content and making sure that we're ranking for, like I mentioned, the niche keywords that we need to rank for. But on the tech side and the other things that are important for bringing in traffic, I would say social is one of the things that we utilize, which I think isn't always obvious for B2B companies. It's a little bit more difficult to utilize social in a good way than it is for D2C. So we focus heavily on LinkedIn, and then we actually are on TikTok,
Mhm.
and just making sure that we have a presence there. We don't spend a ton of our time prioritizing that, but I think it's important for me to know that wherever our customers might be, they're going to be able to interact with our brand.
No, it's interesting because we had a lot more marketers recently from a B2B angle who were starting to see successes through B2 to TikTok in a very sort of
Mhm.
unusual ways, even where you wouldn't have thought so from the get-go. So very, very interesting. Okay, no, that gives us a very good overview. Now I would love to switch gears a little bit and talk about you as a marketer a little bit. And your journey. So there's so much content out there for marketers, right? Where do you personally like to educate yourself? When it comes to learning new sort of strategies, channels, is there some go-to resources that you find are very useful?
Yeah, so even from my television station days, I've been a big follower of eMarketer. Looking at all of the data that they provide is really helpful for me, not only in my own strategies, but in advising my customers of what they can do to get
Mhm.
more business, because that's what we're in the business of, right? Is supporting our customers in any way that we can. And then I utilize LinkedIn a lot, joining communities on there and following other marketers. For me, this is my first position in a B2B SaaS company, so it was really helpful to just jump on there and see from, kind of a more personal perspective, how they do their day-to-day jobs and what their priorities are and what they focus on.
Very cool. To wrap it up for today, I have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those? They're a little bit of a surprise for the guests, but they're very harmless.
Okay, I'm ready.
Very good. What is the last book you read or the last podcast you listened to?
Okay, I'm currently reading Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. It is a giant novel that I am slowly working my way through, but I'm a huge reader, so I'm constantly have a book on my Kindle or on my phone.
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
Oh gosh, I would probably say there's so many things. I would say customer success and account management. We just want to make sure that it's easy with software to kind of set it and forget it. We want to make sure that our customers never feel like they've been forgotten by us.
Very good. If there would be no boundaries in technology, right? Everything would be possible. What's the one thing that you would fix for your role as a marketer in general? What's the one thing where you have a magic wand? What would you like to change for your role as a marketer?
Okay, this is going to be kind of weird, but I wish that I could teleport to my customers' locations. Ours are so spread out all over the country. Getting case studies, getting photos and other collateral from them would be so much easier if we could just teleport to Washington and Kansas and Pennsylvania.
Makes sense. And for the very last question, right? I would like to do a little bit of time travel, right? Let's go back to the days of Texas Tech, right? You're basically finishing formal education, you're heading into the world of marketing and business and growth. What's the one advice you would give yourself for your journey?
I think I would tell myself to be assertive, and to stay curious. Marketing is one of those industries that you're constantly learning new things, which is fabulous. And I love it because it's changing so quickly. But marketing also tends to be a little bit undervalued or questioned at bigger companies. And so I would tell myself, you know what you're doing and you have a voice to use. So, when you have a seat at the table, you need to speak up and say, like, this is what needs to happen.
Makes a lot of sense. Kembra, I really appreciate you took the time with us today. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about SitePro today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
If you had to remember one thing about SitePro, it's all about creating a better, more secure resources for future generations. So no matter how you're using water today, we can help you make sure that you're using it in a way that's gonna change the world for the good.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Pathmark Presents.
Thank you.